Life is complicated. I never thought I'd live like this.
No?
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
And you don't worry about your soul?
After you walk into a village, and you see 50 children, all sitting neatly in a row against the church wall, each with their throats cut and their hands chopped off, you realize that the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul.
Prior to Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 4 had to be Rockstar's most mature story to date. Their first big leap into the next generation of hardware, which at the time was the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It seems like every series, every big name video game has that underappreciated, underrated, constantly overlooked game. And when it comes to Grand Theft Auto, it seems like Grand Theft Auto 4 is always that. It's always remembered for one particular thing: the physics, the ragdoll effects, or just how bad the driving mechanics in this game really was. Which, going back 14 years later, replaying this game, yes, the cars do drive like shit. However, another thing to appreciate this game for is that even though some of the cars are a pain in the ass to drive, at least they all feel distinctively different, whereas in Grand Theft Auto 5, everything feels relatively the same to drive. All you gotta really take into account is the size of the vehicle that you're placed in. And that's literally it, which is funny to me because while the driving in GTA 5 is so much easier, in 4, the intricate attention to detail, the suspension in the vehicles, how much damage is visibly seen on these vehicles when you crash into them. And like I said, the cars themselves. Driving a car in GTA 4 is the equivalent of trying to take a piss with a hard-on. It's not exactly exciting, it's a little bit awkward, and it's very hard to get out of certain situations, and there's usually a mess. But besides that, at least going over to the narrative side of GTA 4, personally speaking, it's my favorite story. You follow Niko Bellic, a Eastern European man of no specific country of origin, coming to Liberty City. It's upon his arrival that he soon finds out that his cousin is one of the biggest liars on the face of the earth, since for the last 10 years or so he's been getting emails from him talking about the wild life that he's been living out in America, having crazy American orgies, all the mansions he owns, and sports cars, and come to find out, yeah, he lives in a roach-infested apartment with a failing taxi business, and he's in debt to quite a few loan sharks, one of which is actually banging his girlfriend.
No, my woman was banging this warthog and you didn't do anything?
I still find it hilarious that he's the only one in the room that doesn't realize that's actually happening. That's the main theme of the game. Niko coming to the United States trying to get his slice of the American dream, going from job to job, earning money to support himself, and look out for his cousin Roman. I mean, sure, he may be pulling the plug on some Italian mobster turned informant,
Go to sleep, Anthony. You look tired.
or taking some dead bodies to a doctor that sells organs on the black market, and making a couple dark jokes while he's at it.
Shit. Were you guys trying to make a break for it?
Rock one, my brother. It's me, Jacob. You want to get some food?
Shit, Jacob, I'm sorry. I'm already hanging out with 2 friends.
Yeah, this game has some missions that are way darker than I remember. I really only remembered extorting that one porn business, probably because I was a horny preteen at the time and constantly looking at the door to make sure no one walks in when that was going on. But holy shit, this was a great game. The best things about the story, though, is you can actually feel Niko's sadness in some instances. Well, yes, he came to the United States for a fresh start, running away from a powerful Russian gang member that, as it turns out, is also in Liberty City, prompting Niko to have his own set of problems that Roman unfortunately finds himself getting sucked into due to his own issues with gambling and not being able to stay out of the clubs, making him an easy target and way to get at Niko. But in spite of all this, Niko is on a little bit of a revenge mission. You see, back when he was in the army in Europe, you know what, fuck it, I'll just let him explain.
When I was in the army, we were going on a mission to ambush a squad who had killed a lot of innocent people. They were our enemies. But we never did it. There were 15 of us, all boys from the village. But one of us betrayed the group. It was a setup. For money. 12 people died. 3 escaped. I know the traitor was not me. So for 10 years, I've been searching for the other 2. One of them lives here,
Honestly, this is one of the oh shit I'm not paying attention what's going on moments, as this side motive in Nico's plays a smaller role. Sort of, it's a little bit more in the background. I found myself focusing so much on Roman and Nico's relationship and how they're constantly on the run avoiding Ray Bulgarin, a powerful Russian gang member who believed Nico owed him money, and focusing so much on Nico's immediate revenge with Dmitri, a man who earlier in the game betrayed Nico's trust and outed him to Bulgarin. You know, that's actually a cross and betrayal you see happen in front of you, and you witness the entire duration and evolution of Dmitri and Nico's relationship, from the two of them being somewhat partners to Dmitri having Nico assassinate Dmitri's partner. Then after that, you get stabbed in the back by Dmitri, and then it's just the entire game, this back and forth of Dmitri tormenting you, capturing Roman, and luring you into a trap. You know, you don't realize that this entire time Nico is on his own personal mission, not only to wreak revenge and seek answers for why a former comrade and friend did what he did, but also to find that part of him that's been missing this entire time. One of the most moving clips of the game, providing insight to Nico and his mentality and how he's been living the past 10 years or so, isn't even in a cutscene. It's on a drive to find that one person who he believed betrayed him all those years ago.
Some way, my friends from the village were lucky. I lost myself that day too. Everything that was good and innocent in me died along with them. If I could live those hours again, I think I would have preferred to be buried in the pit along with everyone else. This is all that is left of me. What am I good at, Roman? What is my trade? A deal in death? Because that is all that is open to me.
That conversation is much longer than that, but it gives a quick glimpse of the inner turmoil and pain Nico's in, and as much depth and how well written Nico and Roman is, that's just part of what Grand Theft Auto 4 has to offer narratively. Rockstar really flexed their creative writing skills in this game. While the main story involves Nico, his introduction to Liberty City and everything its criminal underworld has to offer, watching him balance family, work, and his own personal revenge mission, Grand Theft Auto 4's story was beefed up with 2 story expansions that not only involved 2 other interesting characters with some new safe houses, weapons, HUDs, and new characters to interact with, but the 2 protagonists you play as even played a direct role or had some hand in things going on behind the scenes of the main story. The first of the 2 DLCs, titled The Lost and Damned, is focused on Johnny Klevitz. Yes, the man who was stomped out by Trevor in Grand Theft Auto 5.
I know, cowboy. It's okay, man. Give me a hug, yeah. Fucking shit! Cut!
Before turning to base head out in Sandy Shores, this DLC sees him as vice president, soon turned into president of the Lost Biker Gang, with this chapter obviously based out of Liberty City. All of the events of the DLC are going on concurrent to the main story, with you kind of being able to pick up bits and pieces of what the timelines are looking like across all 3 stories. With Nico, when you first meet Mikhail Faustin and Dmitri, Faustin asks you to kill a biker that his daughter's getting involved with, which you don't think too much of at the time. Just another hired gun mission, and that's it. In this DLC, you see firsthand how the Lost deal with it, with the president named Billy using the biker's death as a means to start a drug war with the Angels of Death, claiming they're the ones responsible for it. This in turn drives a deeper wedge between Billy and Johnny, with most of the DLC seeing Johnny as seemingly the only rational one of the gang. This rationality or disobedience in the face of Billy's recklessness leads to the civil war among the Lost Liberty City chapter, ultimately culminating and ending in what I think is one of the coolest endings ever. Billy at some point of the DLC gets busted by the cops and starts to becoming an informant for the police. This prompts Johnny and some of the higher up Lost members that stay loyal to him to break into prison to assassinate their former leader, with them straight up blowing open the front gates to the prison with explosives and strong arming their way to the prison yard for Johnny to kill the psychotic rat, is one of the coldest endings to a DLC.
Checkmate, dude. Come on, get it over with. Do it! I'm doing it! What? You waiting for a speech or something? Come on!
And while the story, like I said, mainly revolves around Johnny, there's a lot of additional information of the DLC that helps fill in the gaps of the main story. Earlier I mentioned Roman getting captured by quote-unquote Dmitri, and Dmitri tormenting Nico about how his cousin is bound and gagged in some warehouse out in the middle of nowhere. Well, in this DLC, as it turns out, it's actually Johnny that kidnapped Roman on behalf of Dmitri, a woman that he's closely related to, as it turns out, owed a large sum of money to some Russian mobsters, and in an effort to alleviate some of her debt, Johnny accepted the task of of kidnapping Roman for them. While I thoroughly enjoyed the ending to this DLC, I think this mission was the best though, because not only do you see insights to how Roman was captured, but there's a little bit of humor there with Roman actually shitting and pissing himself during the kidnapping, and them actively making fun of him for it.
I apologize. With those twins.
You should apologize for that smell! You shot yourself or something? God damn!
Lord, sorry for shooting myself! And for laughing and bruising balls!
There's some other interesting tie-ins behind the scenes of what's going on with Johnny and the Lost, providing a little bit more insight to, again, the main story and how certain events end up impacting Nico and how he has to react on the fly. But the mission where you kidnap Roman, even though Johnny himself probably didn't know that Nico is related directly to Roman, it just goes to show that even though they've been doing jobs together and they are familiar with one another, and for the most part they've been on the same sides, they're not friends. And at the end of the day, even though everyone's having their paths cross in one way or another, they're all ultimately looking out for themselves and their best interests.
Yeah, there was a bomb at the bank. Place got robbed. Nothing to do with me, I swear. Some Irish guys. Anyway, listen. I'm coming over, okay? So wake up. You hear me? Wake up.
The second DLC, The Ballad of Gay Tony, as you play as Luis Lopez, and you get to explore the nightclub scene of Liberty City in his DLC. Luis is the partner and right-hand man of Prince or Gay Tony, and holy fuck does Rockstar go hard in the derogatory terms. And I'm gonna be honest here, Luis being called a spick, as someone of Latin American and Hispanic descent, I've honestly never felt so included before in my life in video games, so thank you Rockstar. I kinda want more of this in game. Now, but seriously, if you aren't into the rough terms pertaining to Italian, Spanish speakers, or homosexuals, I don't know what to say other than at least Rockstar tried to make it fair for everyone with this comeback.
Fucking hetero!
This DLC picks up immediately after the heist of Bank of Liberty, which is a main story mission where for the first time Nico and Luis indirectly run into each other, with Nico, well, robbing a bank. While the main story and the Lost and Damned DLC show Johnny and Nico have a more direct impact and one-on-one interactions with each other, going so far as to work on jobs together, the Ballad of Gay Tony DLC shows Luis indirectly have some type of connection to Johnny and even Nico. Nico, for pretty much the entire story, has been hiding and trying to stay away from Ray Bulgarin, with him pretty much slowly fading to the background and Dimitri stealing that spotlight as the main person Nico's out for, slowly turning into a quest of revenge that we see kind of transpire throughout the main story itself, but that does leave some information to be desired as to what exactly happened to him and whether if Nico is safe from him or not. This DLC answers those questions, with Luis working directly for Bulgarin. We get to see what Bulgarin's doing behind the scenes, how he ends up setting himself up inside Liberty City. This DLC answers that, with Luis being one of Bulgarin's goons, for lack of a better term. Unfortunately though, eventually Bulgarin ends up betraying Luis after believing Luis tried to rob some diamonds off of him, and the DLC ends with Luis jumping onto a plane that Bulgarin's using to return back to his country. While not as big of a holy shit moment as the execution of Billy in prison by Johnny, the ending is still a great one, with Luis starting off with defending Tony and his Masonette nightclub, to Yusuf, an extremely wealthy, let's just call him friend slash business associate, lending a hand by providing some air support on your way to the airport to finish off Bulgarin. It's still a feel-good moment of everything and everyone coming together to exact Luis's own personal revenge quest on Bulgarin himself. And like I said, it ends with Luis managing to jump onto the plane and executing Bulgarin, who, in a desperate attempt to deter Luis from killing him, pulled the pin out of a grenade, forcing you to basically jump out of a plane that had a giant hole blown into the side of it. Besides filling in that giant blank with Ray Bulgarin and Nico Bellic, there's some other tie-ins to the main story as well as the Lost and Damned DLC. Interestingly enough, the Lost and Damned DLC is more directly impactful to the main story, but the events of the Ballad of Gay Tony and the Lost and Damned DLC are a little bit more intertwined. Luis doesn't have too much direct or indirect contact with Nico, but there's a lot more indirect contacts between the events of Johnny and what the Lost are doing, and Luis Lopez and what exactly he's doing. But it's a DLC that shows how well Rockstar was at intertwining a story that some consider to be their first true attempt at a three protagonist type of approach to a giant overall narrative prior to what we got in Grand Theft Auto 5, with Nico balancing his past, his family, and his future, just trying to make ends meet in a new foreign country while trying to find some type of closure with the pain from his past, to Johnny, who's just trying to see his brothers are taken care of and not starting a pointless drug war that'll lead to a bloodbath. Then we have Luis, who's looking out for his mom, longtime friends, and business partner and friend Tony. Grand Theft Auto 4 is a game like no other, with a more serious tone from the other Grand Theft Auto entries while having a level of adult humor that will, unfortunately, frankly, never be replicated in any future title. It's a time capsule of humor Rockstar Rockstar's and the Grand Theft Auto series history, as well as an important part in gaming, and that is why Grand Theft Auto 4 is better than any of us truly remember it to be. And I highly recommend you guys diving back in and giving, at the very least, the main story another shot, because I think to this day it blows Grand Theft Auto 5's story completely out of the water. But that's just what I think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, my name is Cynic. Let's talk. Have you ever played Grand Theft Auto 4? If so, when's the last time you played it? I don't think we'll ever get another game like this, which is sad. Clearly Rockstar's priorities have completely shifted and times have changed. There's jokes and things that are said in Grand Theft Auto 4 that I don't think will fly now. I don't think Rockstar really has the balls to push the envelope like that like they did before. Until next time, see you all later.